Hey everyone, this is Jeff from PDS Vehicle Inspections. Today I'm just going to go through a recent issue with the car in the video, the Kia Cerato 2013 YD. It's a 1.8 automatic. Apart from doing the pre-purchase vehicle inspections under the PDS Vehicle Inspections, we'll also conduct driving lessons as a driving instructor. We recently come across a problem with the automatic, that when we were driving it, it just cut out for no reason and it wouldn't restart. This video is about what the issue was with the car and what we did in regards to trying to diagnose the problem with the car. If you watch the part of the testing is, if you watch the tacho, we can see the tacho's turning over, but you can hear the car, it's not starting. So that eliminates a couple of problems to start with. We can also eliminate the crank sensor because the engine's turning over. You can also see that the key lock the immobiliser, it's still on at the moment. This should start flashing, then turn itself off. That way we'll know that the actual coding, and it's not an immobiliser issue. It's generally after about a half a minute, it starts flashing and then it's turned itself off. So we know it's not a key problem, so we can take that away. Next item is, well, as most people would use, is probably plug the scan tool in to see if we've got any problems. Now there is fuel in the car, we know that. And I'm just going to go and get the scan tool and we'll plug that in and see what we get. Okay, so I've got the scan tool plugged in. It's going to select our vehicle and Kia. And this car is already in the system, so it's a YD Cerato. Okay. So it gives us a few options in here of what we can go through and check. This time we're just going to check the engine, unleaded. Okay, so read codes. Okay, so it's saying there's no codes and the system's passed. We go back out and we'll go around and check the immobiliser. Now we know the immobiliser is working, but we can read the codes on it anyway. So there's no problems with the immobiliser, so that's not an issue for the engine not starting. We also have the transmitter code. Can check that one. Once again, it's only going to give us the live data. It's just going to tell us there are two keys. Okay, so it's saying the two keys and there's no problems with that. Go back into engine, unleaded. Okay, so if we go to the active test, now assume this is a fuel problem, given that it doesn't want to start. So if we check the fuel pump relay, it allows us to connect to it. So it gives us an option here to test it. So if we start the test, it says success, so we can stop it. If we go out, we can also check the main relay. Okay, so we can start the main relay, success, stop, and exit back out. So there's not too much else in here that's going to stop the car from starting. Now, given that we've gone through, there's no scan codes for it, nothing in the body control module, so it's not going to give us anything to test in that one. So we know that there's no codes in the system. From the scan tool it's saying the fuel pump relay works, the main relay works. So the next option would then be to just check the actual fuses to make sure that they're testing okay and we have power to the fuses. So I'm just going to pause that. Now once again the problem is ignition lights on. Car sort of went to start but won't start. Okay, so we've gone through and I've checked the fuses. So I've checked the fuses under the dash. So under the dash up here, we've got our fuse boxes up here. I have checked the fuse there. So the fuse is working there. So we're just going to come around to the engine. Okay, so we've come around to the engine bay. We've got the main fuse in here. And unfortunately in here, it doesn't give you a lot of references. All it tells you in here is, as you can see, it says fuel pump 15 amp, and with the test light that fuse is testing fine. What it doesn't tell you is where the fuel pump relay is. So there's no fuel pump relay listed in here as a reference point. But what we do have, and after some looking online and also using the downloaded PDF, which I downloaded from e-manuals online about 12 or 18 months ago, but not thinking I would have to use it, is that I found out that the fuel pump relay is in the back here. There's three relays together: aircon relay, the main relay, and the fuel pump relay. But as you can see, it's not a standard relay with a 4 or 5 pin, and if you're trying to test it, you can't really test this relay. So what we're going to do, and what I had to do, knowing it's a fuel pump problem, now this is the main problem, what I suspect, but to check that firstly we want to make sure the fuel pump's actually working. So I'm just going to go back into the car and we're going to do a bypass test. Okay, so I'll come inside just to show you the PDF. So here we have the picture of the engine bay with the fuse box in the engine bay. It goes down. Doesn't give you a great deal of listing after watching this. It says engine control, fuel pump relay, air compressor relay, but it doesn't actually say. So it says number 1, that's where it is in that box there, but you can't see where it actually is. So the one inside the dash, and it goes through, and then we're back into the engine bay. So here's the EMS box, which is the one it's referring to. If we go down further, we'll tell you what the fuses are. And down a bit further, and there's the EMS box that we were looking at. And as we can see here, it's a sealed unit. So coming over here, engine control relay, air compressor relay, fuel pump relay, PCB. Okay, so that's more than likely a printed circuit board. Therefore, it's probably not going to be serviceable. And because we can't get the cover off this box, can't really check it. So coming down a bit further, it tells you what your fuses are. 15 amp one, which is circuit protected, and we come down further, and so there's the fuel pump relay at the front, and there's the EMS box across the top here, which we can see down here, but we can't get in access to it because it's a printed circuit board. So we did do a test light on the fuel pump here, which actually did work, so there was nothing wrong with that. Okay, so it's telling you what your fuse circuit is. We come down further, it then shows you how you can test your other relays coming around the side, what they are, which is general. That's the secondary fuel pump relay, but you can do this normal test for continuity, as with the normal numbers, putting power to them and checking for a circuit, as you would do normally. There's plenty of videos on how to do a relay test, but that's just for the reference, so if you're what you're looking for. Okay, so we're back into the back of the car. Now I have probed it for power. We don't have any power at the actual plug. So I've connected up a couple of wires going off the actual colours, and I'm going to put them in manually. So I'm using the fuel pump manually to bypass, to check. So we can see our green wires here, which is our power wire, and our negative wire. So I've hooked up a green and brown wire. I'm going to move them to the front, which we'll get back into the front of the car. So now we're back in the front of the car. So I'm just using one of these little jump starters, which are really good. This actually jump starts cars really well. And I'm just going to connect it up. Okay, so I've connected it up, and you might be able to hear the fuel pump now working. If we come back here and I turn the key on, this time, car starts. So we know the car's running, we know the fuel pump actually works. The question is why it's not getting the signal from either the computer, the relay, to the back of the car. So when I disconnect the fuel pump, car cuts out. So we know that the fuel pump actually works, and by bypassing it, then we solve that problem in regards to that. But now we're going to find out why it's not actually working. Now, to get this out, this unit here, which is called an EMS unit, I've used a pair of long nose pliers to push the two clips back on this side, and I've also used a screwdriver on this side to pop it up. Now it is a little bit difficult, Don't break anything and try not to stab anything. As we pull the unit out, we can see we've got the connectors on the back, and if we turn it over, there doesn't seem to be any access to what you'd think the relay is. So the relays can't actually be seen, they're inside this little black box here. Now, suspecting that I can't test it, well, if I maybe trace all the wires back through here to what colour the wires are, although we don't have a dark green wire at the back here that goes into the actual fuel pump itself. So I'm sure that if I look for the wiring harness, I might be able to find the actual number, test if it's got an output and an input, and in that way I might be able to check the actual relay itself. But that's the normal 4 and 5 pin relay where you might be able to put a continuity test on it. Well, I don't know about that, and I didn't go that far. I try to go to the easiest problems first, then if they don't work, then I go backwards and start to expand the area of diagnosis. So in this case here, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to get a new unit. And the unit that I'm going to be using is from one of our other Kia Ceratos. So we have 3 of these cars. We use them also for driving schools. So I'm going to steal the unit out of the other car and I'm going to test it in this car to see whether or not it starts. Okay, so we've changed the other one. We've put the other EMS unit in, block unit in, from the other Kia Cerato. But one of the things I'd like to know is that the problem, to make sure that it actually is. We know the car restarts again. So what I went and did was I actually fitted the one that's not working back into the other car. So I'm just going to pause the video, I'm going to go over to the other car, I'm going to fit this unit to the other car, and I'm going to see if I get the same symptoms that I get when it was not working in this particular car. By rights, if I turn the key in the other one, it doesn't start. To me, that confirms that this is the problem. So we'll go and see what happens. Okay, so we're over here at the other car. So I'm just coming around. And one of the things you should do before you disconnect it is always drop your battery negative off. So I'm just going to pause it again while I pull this unit out and swap them back over. Okay, so the other unit loose, so I'm just going to pause it while I pop this one out and swap it over. Okay, so I've swapped them over, and I'm just going to pop the other one back in. So the other one's back in, and I'm just going to put the battery terminal back on, and then we'll see how this one restarts. Okay, so we're around back in the car. Now I've swapped it over. Let's put in the manual, let's put it in neutral, chin. And we'll see if this one starts. Same symptom, cranking over, not starting.
Starting normal recording.
And that's just the in-car camera telling it it wants to start, but unfortunately the car doesn't want to. So we'll just turn it off. We know now, we can confirm that the relay is the issue, because it's doing exactly the same thing in this car that it was doing in the other car. Put the good one back in, put the battery terminal back up, and we'll just go and test and see if it starts. So back in the car, and putting the good one back in. Well, we know that starts the car here, so now we can confirm that the relay on the printed circuit board seems to be playing up. So as I said, we've already ordered one, and once that comes in we'll replace it, and that should solve our problem. Okay, so this is a new part that's come from Kia, the new EMS unit. So we're going to go and fit that one to the car, and by rights the car should start up without any problem. Okay, so I fitted the unit to the car, the new one. So we'll just go through, and I can hear the fuel pump starting, and the car starts up without any problem. Now we actually have driven the car for a period of time, so it is certainly the problem. The car did actually go back to Kia under warranty. I replaced the old part in the car at the time. I left them a bit of a note indicating what the problem was. Now Kia agreed with that. They actually had to use the part that we supplied because we needed our car back on the road for the driving school. So now they've ordered me a new part because they didn't have one in stock. That's probably because I bought both of the parts they had in stock just in case we come across this problem again. I didn't want to have the car off the road for a week. So I hope it helps you if you have the same similar problem. It may very well be that EMS box, and check that out first and may get you back on the road quicker. Thanks for looking. See ya.